Welcome. Today is going to be a very exciting day, and you're going to have the opportunity to learn quite a bit of information to help you along your path. This is an opportunity for you to get as much information as you can, and I congratulate you for being here. The program starts this morning with my workshop on financial security. Financial security is a critical part of everyone's lives, and I think you'll appreciate this little cartoon that I share with you. Got that from the Wall Street Journal, and I guess they're tuning in a little bit to what's going on in our lives. Before we get started, I really think it's important for me to share with you my story. I don't usually do that, but I think that considering today's impact and the importance on so many people's lives, I'd like to just let you know where I came from and how I got to running Money Insight. Back in the early 80s, my husband was a very active alcoholic, and I reached a point going through Al-Anon and some other support that I was able to say to him, please get help or get out, and he chose to get out. That left me with 3 children. One was an early teenager, the other 2 11 and 12, and the need to go back to work. And so I walked in and took the first job I could get at Merrill Lynch, and I was the receptionist. I was the receptionist there for a few months before I realized that this is not where I wanted to stay. And so I worked very hard and was able to be promoted to a sales assistant, then to a broker's assistant. And then when I left Merrill Lynch, I went and I was a broker for Dean Witter. And I stayed with Dean Witter for several years, and until I had the inspiration that people really needed an advocate and needed somebody to teach them about personal finance. And so this is why I'm here with Money Insight. I started it back early in 1993. I'm at the end of my 4th year, and I'm here to help people like yourself make decisions around money and around financial security. Our financial decisions are not just made today. There's a tremendous growth, or there's a tremendous impact of our past that has leaves an impression on us and makes us make the decisions that we do. When we look at yesterday, we look at the time previous in our lives, and we have to think about what was money in my life, and what are the memories, and what are the models that were there. Today I have career choices to look at. I have how do I value myself, and how do I track my money. And tomorrow I have to look out and see what new tools I need, what risk I'm willing to take, and how do I trust myself. So let's talk about yesterday for a little bit. What were the models in my life? What were the memories? And for just a minute, and I'll give you 30 seconds, think about what was the first memory that you had in your life of money? Usually when I give this workshop, I ask for input from the group, and since that's not possible today, I'll just share with you what my first memory, one of my first memories were. I had a younger brother. I actually am the oldest of 7, but this goes back when there were just the 2 of us, and my parents had decided that they were going to give us an allowance. And being the older one, I knew I was going to get more money because I was older. And so they gave me a dime and they gave him a nickel. But his was bigger. And why was mine smaller? Because I was the older and I should have gotten more money, and I started crying, and they tried to explain to me that 10 cents is more than 5 cents. So they finally kept me quiet by giving me 2 nickels and him 1 nickel. So when I think back on my life, I cry around money and I get confused, and so that carried on, up until my adult life. So this is an important thing to think about: what thoughts, what memories, what feelings we bring to money. Again, what were the models? Who in our household managed the money? Sometimes, the father would manage money, or sometimes the father would come in and give the paycheck to his wife, and she would dole out the money. Who do you remember in your life giving out the money? Was money used as a control tool? Were you punished? Were you not given your allowance because you did something wrong? So you have to go back and you have to start to think, what was going on in my life around money, and am I bringing those same feelings and those same memories into my adult life? And that's one thing that we have to watch. Are we making today's decisions on yesterday's feelings? So it's really important to go back and look and see, what happened in my life? How do I feel about money? Were my parents very tight-fisted and told me no, I couldn't have things? Actually, I grew up thinking that my parents didn't like me. They didn't tell me we were poor. I just thought they didn't buy me things because they didn't like me. And coming down and seeing 1 or 2 presents under the Christmas tree, when I knew when I went off to my cousin, she had dozens of presents, I thought they didn't like me. Nobody told me that we were poor. So it's important to know what was going on in your life and some of those memories that might influence today's decisions. You must examine where you have been before you can next decide where you want to go. So it really is important to step back and take a look at what happened yesterday and what happened in your life. And again, this is just a refresher or reiterate what I said yesterday. Today's decisions are a result of yesterday's impression. The role models that were played, if you think of your grandmother as being very, very generous, or as your grandfather as being a very tight-fisted person, or was there a particular role for males, was there a particular role for females? In my family, doesn't have anything to do with money, but my family, my mother never mowed the lawn. I've never mowed the lawn. That's a male thing. Well, is taking care of money a male thing? And that's something that we have to change in our minds, that as women, it's really critical to know that we have to learn how to take care of our money, despite what our models were rolled for us. Religious teachings, very important aspect as far as money is the root of all evil. It's harder for a rich man to get to heaven than it is for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. Well, I'm a good person. I want to go to heaven. Does that mean I can't have money? Oh, you know where God is money. You know, all kinds of negative things are around money. And so it's really important for us to stop and think. It's okay to have money. Money is necessary. Many times people come into me and they say, I don't want anything to do with money. I hate money. Take it all away from me. And I say, well, what about breathing? How about the air? Do you want to not breathe? Well, then it's just like breathing. You have to deal with money. You can't pay bills and heat your home and talk on the telephone and not incur some bills. So no matter what you do, you're going to have some interaction with money. And money is not evil. Making money the be-all and end-all, or doing evil things to get money might be evil. But money is a necessary exchange of energy. It's my energy exchanged for other goods. So money is not evil, and that is something that if you feel that that's really weighing on you and keeping you from making money, that's something to think about. Peer pressure. You know, that t-shirt that you see, he who dies with the most toys wins. Well, that's telling us that we are being measured by what we have. Who has the bigger car, who has the bigger house, who travels here, who travels there, you know, what have I done, you know, what do I wear? That's not measuring my self-worth. That's measuring, okay, how much money? How much money do you make? Is that a sign of whether you're a good person or a valued person? No, that really isn't. But in our culture, it looks that way. And so maybe I don't think of myself as being a good and wonderful and great person because I don't make as much money as the next guy. That's something that, you know, has been drummed into us by our culture, and that really has to be visited on a more personal level. And socialization, again, men make more money. Well, it's even interesting how we know that, what is it, that women make, it used to be 68 cents on the dollar to a man's salary. Now it's moved up to 72. But that's also, you know, the fact that men were the breadwinners, men were the wage earners, and so the women were valued less. And that permeates our life. How many women are out there really running the show, being the executive secretary, who the boss could really not do very well without, and yet how much less in salary does she make because she happens to be a woman or just hasn't risen to that level of expectation. So we have to stop and we have to look at these pieces of socialization so that we can feel what we're buying into and what sits right with us and what we can't use anymore. So very important to look at yesterday so we know where we have been so that the path ahead can be different for us. Let's take a look at today. Where am I today? Do I enjoy my job or career? How do I value my work? How do I value my talents? What value do I put on my time? Do I spend my money the way I want? Does it bring me joy? And do I really know where my money goes? When we look at do I value my work and my talents and my time, that's a very heavy-duty one for women because women are so giving and they give of our time and we love to help people. We want to make people feel good. That was one of the very important issues that came out in the Women's Small Business Project here at Trinity College, where we were trying to put a price on our product or service. And so many times the women were undervaluing what they had to offer. Not just counting the materials that went into the product, but not counting with a really strong dollar value what the time that they put into this product was worth. And so to turn around and say, I do have a value, my value is very high, and be able to know that this work can be valued by someone and it can be paid for and compensated for in a very special way. Again, it's looking at how do you value yourself. Talking about money, do I spend money the way I want? Are you saying, oh, I'm always paying bills. I never have the money to do what I want to do. I never have the money to take an extra course or take a knitting class or take a little trip. Where is my money going? And when I do spend it, how do I feel about it? Does it make me feel good, or is it just an obligation? Let's pay those bills and get them out of the way. I never seem to get out from under. That's a really critical factor as far as moving ahead and making more money. If you're not getting joy from your money, you're certainly not going to care about making much more. Just the relief from getting out from under bills isn't going to make you or motivate you ahead. And then where does my money go? That's a very critical factor, and I see people come into me all the time and they say, I can't get a handle on my money. It just fithers through my fingers and I really have no idea where it's going. And so in order for you to know what gives you joy and to build up a pile of money to put to things that are going to make you feel good and make you happy and give you a better life, it really is important to know where your money goes. Now this is a monumental task, and I ask people to do it when they come in to see me, or even the Church Street class that I give. I ask people to track their spending. Now for 4 weeks to write down every penny you spend. I tell people to carry around an index card. I usually use the larger one, the 4x6, and I fold it in half and it fits in my pocket or it fits in my purse, and that gives me the opportunity to write down, pull it out of my pocket, write down if I put 50 cents in a parking meter, 35 cents for the free press, $1.50 for a bagel, whatever I buy, all through the day to write down everything I spend, how much I spent, and what I spent it on. Then at the end of the week, what I ask them to do is to put all of those numbers on a sheet that has the categories. Now some of these categories might not apply to you. Some of you might not have pets, some of you might not have children, so you don't need daycare, but it's really important to see where your money goes and what you might want to do about it. That's where we start making our decisions. But when you track every penny, when you see how much you're paying for gas, when you see how much you're paying for food, and it's the incidental food that usually turns out to be the biggest culprit, where that money goes as far as I call it convenience food. When I'm picking up the kids from school and taking them off to a soccer game, when I'm rushing home late from work and oh darn, I forgot to take the chicken out of the freezer, let's send out for pizza. Or I don't feel like cooking tonight, let's go get Chinese food. That is what I call convenience food. That's not food that you buy at the supermarket and you prepare your meals. That's food that is there for your convenience. Now, I'm not saying you can't ever do that, but once you sit down and track how much that's costing you each week and each month, you'll realize that that money is really going out for your convenience. And it's not, it might be satisfying the moment, but long term, it's really not improving your life. So working on this weekly sheet, and I typically do it either on, I do it on a Sunday night, because Sunday I'm kind of gearing up for the weekend, down from the weekend, getting ready for my work week. Excuse me. Some people might feel good about doing on a Friday night, but make sure you do it every week, the same night, be it a Friday, a Monday, or Tuesday, whatever night works for you, and do it for at least 4 weeks. If you're really serious about it, 4 weeks will make a major difference in the way you spend money. So let's go back and just look at this again. For 4 weeks, write down every penny you spend. At the end of each week, record those amounts. Find 2 areas that you're spending money where you really don't want to spend money or you want to spend less. You know, this is not about whether you're a good person or a bad person. This isn't about whether you keep a good budget or you don't keep a budget. This is about looking at where my money goes, being aware, and then making a decision and making a choice. You can't make a choice if you don't know where it's going. And usually on that sheet, 1 or 2 areas pop out. And I mentioned a few minutes ago the incidental or convenience food. Another one might be contributions. They pass the hat around the office. Mary Jane is having a baby. It's Susie's birthday. Somebody's leaving. You're going to put $5 here, $2 there. Well, that's very nice, but how much of that money do you give away? And how would you feel if you created a budget? Another thing is gifts. People are always having a problem with gifts. As I said earlier, I'm one of 7. So I have 6 brothers and sisters, and 6 brothers-in-laws and sisters-in-laws, and I think we're up to about 16 nieces and nephews. And so every time I send out a card, I put 32-cent stamp on the card, and you know you can't get a card for maybe under $1.50. Well, you start adding those up, and if I happen to want to put a check or buy them a little gift, so what I've done is I know Hallmark makes a packet of cards, and I can get 8 cards for $4. Well, that's 50 cents a card. That's not too bad. And it's certainly a lot cheaper than $1.50 a card. And so what if everybody gets the same birthday greeting? I thought of them and I sent a card and I write my own special message on the inside. Or I had a woman come to me and told me that her husband has this computer that she went out and spent $20 and bought a greeting card or a graphics type program. And she said within a month, the program had already paid for itself because she wasn't spending all that much money on greeting cards. So you will see one area that is important to you that will pop out and say, why am I spending so much money here? I'd rather be spending it over there. You have to see it, you have to have the awareness, and you have to make the choice, the decision. I don't want this money, this much money being spent here. I'd like to spend less there and more over here. And the more over here might be a vacation, might be a class, might be a new dress. It might be something that you've been thinking about for a long time, taking guitar lessons. Who knows? But again, it's where does my money go? Is it going where I want it to go? Is it giving me joy? When you get it down on 4 weeks, 4 weeks, they say multiply a 1 week by 4.3, and that'll give you what it typically costs you for a month. When you get what it cost you for a month, multiply that by 12, and it'll give you what it cost you to live for a year. That number, what it cost you, what's going out for daily expenses, dentists and doctors and food and transportation, does that equal or is that less than what you make? And unfortunately, it's a lot more than what people make. And that's where they get themselves into big trouble with credit cards and debt and personal loans. So again, putting these numbers on a piece of paper, getting to see where I spend my money, and making choices about a little bit here and a little less there, gives you the opportunity to say, I'm living outside of what I'm making, and that's not good. I have to spend a little less in each area to keep it within those boundaries. And that's really an important piece. So these are parts of making decisions for tomorrow, looking at yesterday and looking at today. Now we're going to move on to the investment part. Now, typically, and it's interesting, up until recent years, I didn't include an investment part in a talk such as this about financial security because it wasn't appropriate for everyone. But what I've been finding over the last few years is that many companies are offering 401ks. A 401k is a retirement plan that is paid for with your dollars before the money is taken out, before taxes are paid, and it's money that you are saving through your company towards your retirement. And what is very important is for you to know what you're doing. And the employers have not been providing very understandable information, and so that's one of the services that Money Insight offers. Is I go out to different companies and I offer 401k education programs, because I find that there are many employees who don't understand what the program is all about, and when they do understand the program, they're not sure what choices to make. So I'd like to go over a few of the things as far as where the investments are and how it all fits into the picture for you. One of the things is keeping money in low-yielding investments could be costing you. If you look at an interest rate of 5%, say you have money to put into a CD, you have it in your savings account, and you say, I want to earn a little bit more interest. A savings account right now is only earning about 2.5%, 2.55. If inflation is at 3.5%, 4%, and then I have to pay taxes on that interest, I'm actually losing money. And so this illustration shows you that if I take my money and put it into a CD is a certificate of deposit. It's an agreement between you and the bank is going to give you a rate of interest while they hold your money for a certain amount of time. It could be 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But the bank is going to pay you 5%. Now you end up on that interest, you're going to end up paying 1.5% interest, and then, so that only leaves you a little bit like 3.5%, and then if inflation's at 4%, you've actually lost money. Because inflation is our buying power. We have $1 today, but over time, inflation is eating away our buying power. If you think back as to how many years ago was it that you could buy a decent pair of sneakers for $25? How many have you gone looking for a new car and realized that the new car costs more than you make in a year? So that's inflation. I saw an article in the paper just recently that back in 1954, a brand new Chevrolet cost $1,700. Now you can't touch one for $17,000. That's inflation. I might have the same pile of money, but my buying power is shrinking. So it's really important to know in your 401k where money is going in order for you to have your money work harder for you, and in order for you not to lose buying power, lose the value of your dollar, you have to know where to put your money. Now this is the investment pyramid that I use to teach people the relationship of investments to each other. And it also shows, if you see the arrow on the left-hand side there, the risk-reward relationship. Now, that means if you take more risk, you have the potential, not guaranteed reward, but you have the potential for increased reward. And I use this as a tool. I use the pyramid because geometrically, it's a very stable figure. And the base of it is wide and strong. And just like any other building that you would be constructing, you want the foundation to be very stable and very strong. So these investments that are going to be on the first level are your safest and your most liquid investments. And this is what I call, this is not investable dollars, so be careful. The investments on this first level are going to be where you keep your safe dollars, the money that you're going to need today and a few months from now, the money that you're going to need access to as easily and as quickly as possible. And we have down there U.S. Treasuries. U.S. Treasuries are typically your savings bonds. They are obligations of the government. You also hear about U.S. Treasuries being notes, bills, and bonds. And a T-bill. A T-bill just means that it's going to mature in under a year. A Treasury note means that it'll mature, or you can get your money back in 1 to 10 years. And a bond, and you always hear reference to the 30-year bond if you ever listen to the business report, that is an obligation of the government that's going to mature, or you get your money back in 30 years. They are backed by the full faith and credit of the government. CDs, as I mentioned earlier, are certificates of deposit. That's an agreement between you and a bank. Our banks are backed by FDIC, Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. That's an arm of the government. Money markets are actually money market mutual funds, and it's an opportunity for you to put your money into this money market mutual fund and get a higher interest. You give your money to this fund manager, and the fund manager takes your money and my money and everybody else's money and goes out and buys very, very short-term investments. They're going to mature in 2 days, 2 weeks, overnight, out to 30 days. And so if you call up the bank and you ask them what's the money market interest rate, they'll give you a 7-day average or a 30-day average, because every day the interest rate is changing. Now, money markets are not typically insured, but because they're such short-term investments, they figure that nothing too much can happen drastically that they can't fix in a few days. Your savings and your checking accounts are also in your bank, and your bank is backed by FDIC. So we have these investments, treasuries, CDs, savings, and checking, all backed by FDIC, all backed by the government. And so you know that if the government gets in trouble, that means we're all in trouble. Home equity is the money that you're putting into your home every month when you pay off that mortgage. And hopefully down the road, if you've maintained your house and properly values have stayed high, then you will get that money back that you've been paying in. Many times you don't have access to that money that you've paid in unless you get a home equity loan. When you look at life insurance, it's very important to think about what is the purpose of life insurance. Life insurance is to replace lost income. Now think about, do you have children? Do you have an outstanding mortgage? Who would need the income from you or from your partner? And should something happen to you or to your partner, who would take care of these children? Where would that lost income come from? And that's the purpose of life insurance. Many times people come to me and they have little children or dependents and they don't have life insurance. That's the first thing we look at. Many times people come to me and they really don't need life insurance. For example, I don't have life insurance because my children are grown, they all have jobs, they all are educated. I don't need them sitting around saying, well, Mom, when are you going to die so we get, your insurance policy? So I don't have dependents. Life insurance typically has what we call a death benefit. And it can be a term policy that means that you can pay money into it for years and years and years, but the only way money will ever come out of that is if the insured, and maybe that's you, dies, and then your beneficiary gets the money. That's a term policy that will pay out only at death. Then we have a whole life policy or a universal life policy. It has a death benefit, like the money will be paid out at death, but it also has a savings component. And so you're saying to the insurance company, okay, I want the death benefit just in case something happens to me, and by the way, here's some extra money to invest or to save from me. And if you have a projection sheet done up by the insurance agent, you'll see that 10, 15, 20 years from now, you'll be able to cash in that policy. It might be worth even more than your death benefit. I don't recommend that for everyone. Most people are good savers and they can put that money away on their own. But if somebody is not a good saver, I'll say, okay, buy a whole life, so at least 10, 15 years down the road, you have this protection, but you also have the opportunity of having some savings on the side. An emergency fund. Financial planners tell us we should have 3 to 6 months living expenses in an emergency fund. 3 to 6 months living expenses. Well, most people laugh when I tell them that. They're living paycheck to paycheck. Where am I going to get extra money? It really should be your goal to have an extra few dollars stashed away in an emergency fund just for emergencies. Should your transmission go? Should your furnace blow? Should your grandmother get ill or be dying out in Chicago and you have to hop on an airplane and be there? It's important to have ready access. Yes, we use our credit card. Our credit card is very convenient, but we need to have some pile of money stashed away somewhere that we can pay off that bill. Too many people I see coming to me with debt, credit card debt, because they used it in an emergency, and then when the bill came, they didn't have any money put away to pay that bill, and it just keeps piling up and piling up. So $500 might be as much as you can get together. Make a plan that in the next 6 months you're going to put away $50 a month or $100 a month and get $500 sitting in an account for an emergency. Sure, you might have to tap into it. You might have to take $50 or $100, but you're going to put that money right back. $500 might not be enough for you. $1,000 might be, or $5,000. Whatever it is, get some money put away on the side for an emergency. Vested pension benefits, many companies have stopped providing pensions anymore, but if you do work for a company that has a pension, it's important to know what it takes to be vested, how many years you have to work for the company, and to also know that that money is going to be there. So you ask those questions of your benefits person, what is my pension invested in? Is it going to be there when I retire? Keep asking those questions because we make those people responsible. IRA. IRA is an individual retirement account. It's like a box that you put different investments into, but it's protected from taxes until you're 59 and a half, and then you can start taking your money at that point. But an IRA, I put down there, it's not really the safest, but hopefully this is long-term investing and that you're going to only buy investments that are reasonably safe. An annuity. Annuity is a contract between you and an insurance company. It's not insurance. You give your money to an insurance company and it grows over time. It's almost like having a CD that keeps rolling over. It too is tax deferred like your IRA. It means you cannot touch the money until you're 59 and a half without paying taxes and penalty, or additional taxes and penalty. So before you buy an annuity, make sure it's the right investment for you. It's a very high commissioned investment, so insurance agents and brokers are going to be very happy to sell them to you because they get a higher rate, they get a higher commission, they get paid more dollars. Sometimes it's the most appropriate, sometimes it isn't. So it really is important to know what you're buying before you jump in and give your money. Call up somebody else for a second opinion. This is the first level. This is our safe money. This is not your investable dollars. And so I'm going to take you up through the next levels, and you'll see where maybe the options, the choices that you have in your 401k fit in. I'm going to go through it kind of fast. I know you won't catch it all, but maybe by just saying the terms over, it'll make you more familiar with what you have and what you should look for. Don't forget, this is our safest level. Then we move up to our next level, and it's going to be rather conservative, blue chip companies. Blue chip companies are huge companies. They're in the billions of dollars. They're all around the United States. They're all around the globe. They've been around for many, many years. In fact, 1996 was the 100th anniversary of the Dow Jones. And General Electric has been on it all 100 years. So these are companies that have been around a long, long time. They pay dividends. Now, dividends is the way they share their profits with the people who buy the stock, with their shareholders. So they have been paying dividends for many years because they've been making profits for many years, and each year they increase those dividends a little bit. So this is what we call blue chip companies. They're the biggest companies in the United States, and they've been around a long time, and they have a history of paying dividends and increasing those dividends. Well, let me back up for just a second. Those blue chip companies, we're going to buy stock in that. Stock means I'm an owner, means I participate in the ownership of that company. My money grows when the company grows, and if the company isn't doing well and is kind of losing money, my money will go down. Stock means I'm an owner in a company. Bond means I'm a lender. And a bond means like I'm going to lend my money. If IBM ever builds that plant over in Essex Junction and they're going to need $8 billion to build that plant, they're going to put out a bond issue. So it means you and me and a lot of other people can buy a bond. That means we're lending our money to IBM. When we hold that bond, IBM promises to pay us a certain amount of interest each year, and then so many years out, it might be 10 years or 15 years from now, to pay us our money back. So we're not owners, we're lenders. Stock means I'm an owner, bond means I'm a lender. And when we talk about buying bonds, lending our money to a corporation or to a municipality, a municipal bond is an obligation of a city, state, or town. A corporate bond is an obligation of a corporation. So I can lend my money to General Electric, to IBM, to McDonald's, or I can lend my money to the city of Montpelier, the city of Burlington, the state of Vermont. That's a municipal bond. And they use ratings. There are several rating agencies out there, and you'll hear Moody's and Standard & Poor's and Fitch. Those are rating agencies that actually send people into the company or into the state, look over the books, and if everything is absolutely perfect, they will give them a AAA. If something's a little out of order, they'll give them a AA. So right now, the state of Vermont bonds are rated AA, very high rating, very safe. Moving up to the next level is what we call mid-cap stocks. The first level are in the billions of dollars. Mid-sized capitalized means that they're in the hundreds of millions. I can't fathom that, but that's what they tell us. These are companies that are big. They've been around 40, 50, 60 years. They're all around the United States, probably all around the globe. And they too have a history of paying dividends, sharing their profits with their shareholders. And they have a history of increasing those dividends. When you go into the investment grade bonds, these bonds have been knocked down a notch. Some things happened that they either didn't pay on the bond, or they didn't pay the interest, or their sources of revenue have dried up. A big company left the state, and that's why they have a lower rating. If you think back to what happened in Southern California, where they went totally bankrupt, their ratings are really low. And so that we have to be careful who we lend our money to so that we get it back. Moving up to the next level, or we call small capitalized stock. Now, those are companies that might be 50 million to 150 million. They're small. They usually only have one product, one or two product lines. They haven't been around very long. They could be around 15 or 20 years. They really haven't expanded around the country. They're always buying, building a new plant, buying another fleet of trucks, trying to open up operations in another state, or maybe across the ocean in another country. They don't share their profits. They're constantly taking their profits and putting it back into the company, so you won't typically get dividends from these companies. I put Ben & Jerry's in that category. Ben & Jerry's has been around a little bit more than 15 years now, and if you think back to 1993, when all the medical research was coming out about the high fat content of ice cream, I mean, everybody could feel their arteries getting all clogged, and people saying, I don't want to buy that. Well, Ben & Jerry's could have been out of business, but no, they responded with the frozen yogurt, which is low fat or no fat, and then this year they came out with the sorbet. So they are keeping up with market trends. But again, they have only a very limited product line. Same thing with Timberland. Timberland was a hiking boot company several years ago, and then it became fashionable that everybody wear hiking boots. And even down in New York City and Madison Avenue, people think it's fashionable to wear hiking boots. Vermont has been wearing them for years. But Timberland grew. Now, Timberland has to figure out what people are going to be wearing on their feet 5 years from now, 10 years from now, in order for them to keep ahead. If people decide 5 years from now that they want to be wearing ballet slippers or something like that, Timberland, if they're not making it, they're just going to go back to a very small hiking boot company. So it's very important for us to know that these companies up in this small cap could really disappear from the face of the earth. They're here today. They could make a lot of money and grow and help us have our money grow, or they could disappear. So it's really important to know where you're putting your money. That's where I draw a line, and you see the word speculation. I don't have people put money up above that. I'll quickly go into junk bonds. Junk bonds means that it's backed by a promise to pay. The bonds down below are backed by collateral. It means that they'll sell off the plant, they'll sell off the inventory, they'll sell off the fleet of trucks in order to pay you, the bondholder. But a junk bond isn't backed by collateral, and it's also called a high yield bond. And that bond is backed by a promise to pay, and if the company gets into trouble, they don't pay you. You'll get a higher rate of interest, but you won't get your money back. Real estate. Real estate is up there because it's so illiquid. You know, you have a house, it's a nice house, it's a wonderful house, but if you put it on the market, you don't know if you're going to sell it next week or a year from now. So it's very hard to access, to get the money out of real estate. You could have 100 acres up in the mountains, and you could put that on the market, and you could still be sitting here 2-3 years from now not having sold. So real estate is very illiquid. I'm not saying it's high risk and don't buy it, but it's important to realize that it's not an easy investment to get your money from. IPOs are initial public offerings. So when a company is really small and decides, and it's been founded by 2 or 3 people and it's been growing over time, and they decide they want to share it with you and me and the rest of the public, they'll come out with an IPO, initial public offering. And in a few years, we've had Vermont Teddy Bear and Green Mountain Coffee Roasters and Seventh Generation and Mace and a whole bunch of those small companies that people feel that they really want to own a piece of Vermont. But it's really very speculative because these are companies that haven't been around a long time. So I'm not saying don't put any money there, but put only a very small amount of your money. And then we go up to options and futures, and that's where you have the opportunity to make a tremendous amount of money, but to lose it very, very fast, because you're betting on the future price of commodities, the future price of coffee, the future price of oil, the future price of soybeans, the future price of cotton. And it's really a crapshoot, and you really don't know what you're investing in. 90% of the people who put their money up there lose it, so I don't have any of my clients there. So where do you put your money? What I recommend is to draw a box around those 3 levels and consider your money, be it $1,000 or $5,000 or whatever, that 100%, okay. Out of 100%, how conservative are you? How comfortable are you if the stock market starts moving around? Well, you might want to say, okay, I want to keep a lot of my money down here. I'm going to keep 100% down here just in blue chips, big companies that move ahead at a very slow rate but still move ahead every year. Or, well, maybe I'm not so conservative. I'll put 50% of my money here and 25% and 25% there. That's an important thing for you to sit down and figure out where you want your money. Don't forget, this is safe money, so we're not investing that. But this is money that we're investing, and when I say investing, I mean putting into an investment or buying something that I'm not going to need the money for a minimum of 3 years. Preferably, I'm not going to need it for 5 or 10 years, but it's money that I'm not going to need tomorrow, I'm not going to need next month, I'm not going to need next year. It's going to be out there sometime in the future. 3 to 5 years is the soonest that I could use it. So decide how you want to put your money, how much risk you're going to feel comfortable with. Let's next go into how I break up my pile of money. And it's called asset allocation. Asset allocation means that this is my pile of money, and I have to put it into 2 piles. I'm going to put it into a pile that's going to grow, and I'm going to put it into a pile that's going to pay me income. Let's first talk about the income side. Let's first talk about the growth side, mainly because growth means that I have $2,000 or $5,000, and over a few years it's going to grow to $10,000, $20,000, and by the time I'm retired, I'm going to have this whole big pile of money. It took me a long time to figure out why people didn't put their money over here. It took me a long time to come up with one word, and the one word is unpredictable. There's no time frame, there's no guaranteed rate of return, there's no guaranteed how much I'm going to get back. I could put $2,000 there, I could come away with $10,000 or nothing. So people stay away from here because it's so unpredictable. They really don't feel comfortable because they hear the Dow was up, the Dow was down, the Dow was up, the market was up, the market was down. But if you take a ruler and you draw along the trend line, even though every day we're up and down, over the last 50 years the trend has been up. And that means this is the opportunity. If I started out with $2,000 10 or 15 years ago, that by now I'd probably have 15 or 20. And so this piece, the growth side, is very unpredictable, but over time, long term, our money will grow and we'll have a bigger pile of money. When we go to this side, the income side, it's very predictable. In fact, another word that could be put up here is fixed. And it's fixed in three ways. It's a fixed amount of money, it's a fixed amount of time, it's a fixed rate of return. For example, on a CD, I put in $2,000. I say to the bank, okay, here's my $2,000. And the bank says, I will give you 4.5% for 6 months. So I can even go circle on my calendar. In 6 months, I know I'm going to have this $2,000 back. And I'm going to get the $2,000 plus interest. So I know how much money I'll get. I know what my rate of return is, 4.5%. The bank locks me in at 4. Now, if interest rates start going up, I'm locked in at 4.5%. But if interest rates start going down, I'm locked in at 4.5%. So it's a fixed amount of money, a fixed rate of return, and a fixed amount of time. Very, very predictable. And people say, oh, okay, this is all the money I have, and I have to keep it. And so they keep their money on the fixed side, and it doesn't grow because inflation is the slow leak. And as we pointed out in that other illustration, that if we get an interest rate of 5% and we have inflation at 4% and we have to pay taxes on the interest, we're losing money. And so that's why it's very important that in your 401k or in your IRA or any other investments that you have, that you mix it up. And you have some money on the safe side, the fixed side, and you have some money on the unpredictable side, the growth side. Well, how do I figure it? Where do I start? Financial planners say, start with your age. Now, this is not locked in, but just start with your age. So if I'm 30 years old, I'll put 30% of my money here and 70% in growth. If I'm 50 years old, if I'm 30 years old, I have 35 years in the workforce. 35 years in the workforce will make up for any ups and downs that are going on in the unpredictable side in the stock market. If I'm 50 years old, I've only got 15 more years in the workforce. So I don't want to take a lot of risk. So I put 50% here and 50% on the growth. If I'm 65, I'm going to be wanting the income from these investments, the CDs that pay interest, the bonds that pay me interest. I'm going to want that income because it's going to have to help me pay the bills when I'm using my Social Security and my pension. So what I do there is I put 65% on the fixed side, on the income side. But statistics tell us that if we've made it to 65, chances are we'll make it to 85. And so we have to make sure our money lasts as long as we do. So we have to put at least 35% or more on the growth side. So our money keeps growing and keeps our buying power there. Now, as I said, this is a starting point. That's not fixed in stone. If you're very, very conservative, like I have some, I had a client come in recently, a little old lady who had just sold the house that she and her husband lived in for 50 years. And this pile of money was all she had in the whole wide world, and she put 100% in CDs. If we had any money in on the growth side, she would lose sleep at night. I don't want her to have a heart attack. I want her to enjoy her money. So fine, everything went in there. I have clients who run in and tell me they're 55 years old, they just got their kids through college, they haven't saved a penny towards retirement, they want 100% on the growth side. I said, that makes me nervous. So what happens if something happens in the market? Your money is at risk there. You have to put a little bit on the safe side. Or if somebody comes in and says, oh, you know, I want 100% over there because I know when my father dies or my grandfather dies, I'm going to get a lot of money. Fine. That's another story. You have to know what's comfortable for you. You have to know what's going to let you sleep at night. You have to know what's going to let you feel good about watching your money grow. You decide what mix is going to be. And if it's 50-50, or if it's 70-30, or if it's 100% here or 100% there, you have to figure that one out. And you don't have to figure it out right away. You can try something for a few months and then change it and try something. Most of you, if you have 401ks, have the opportunity to move things around at least once a year, sometimes twice, or even 3 and 4 times a year. So it's not written in stone. It can be changed. But it is important to recognize that you need the growth part. Now, I know that was very, very fast going through the investment part, and I think it's just an opportunity to give you an idea as to what it's all about. Take a class at Church Street, take a class at Adult Ed, look around for free seminars offered by different brokerage houses. Realize that they'll be selling, but all of these are opportunities to keep your this new language fresh. You know, the financial jargon is very difficult because it's a language that we don't use every day. Yes, they sound like words that should be English, but I don't know what they mean. And it's just like taking any other language. You have to keep working at it. And so listen to the Nightly Business Report once in a while. Read the money section of the Free Press every Sunday. Jane Bryant Quinn, she's a journalist. She graduated from Millbury College. She does a wonderful column. It's on the left-hand side of the page every Sunday. So if you don't read it every Sunday, read it one Sunday a month. Read the whole thing. It'll keep the language going for you. Don't send away for a subscription to a magazine and have these magazines coming in every month. Go to the store, buy one magazine. Keep it sitting around, you know, put it in the bathroom, put it on the dining room table, look at it when you're eating breakfast. Have it just flip through it. You'll recognize these words over and over again. So now let's go on to tomorrow. Tomorrow, what will I enjoy doing? Where can I get paid the most for what I do? What skills might I need? Where do I put that extra few dollars to provide for my future? What risks am I willing to take, and what do I need to know? You know, tomorrow is up to you. Tomorrow, we're here today, we see what our situation is, but tomorrow we can make changes. We have choices. And really figuring out, what do you enjoy doing? What makes you feel good? What skills that you have that nobody else has? These are things that are really important to look at. And again, I know at Church Street they give career counseling classes and opportunities for building on your life. Adult education gives them. There are wonderful books out there. So figure out, you know, what's going to be good for me. And I do have choices. Maybe I can't change today. Maybe I can't change next year. But I can be building in the next 2 or 3 years. What skills do I need? Do I have to take a class? Do I have to learn how to do bookkeeping? Do I have to learn how to use a computer? Is that something I can learn at night? Is that something I can learn on a Saturday? Where do I put that extra few dollars? Ask at your office. Do they have a 401k? When would you be eligible? Why don't they have a 401k? If more people in the office ask for it, they eventually might have one. What risks am I willing to take? Build a support. Have some friends you can talk to. Have a career counselor maybe that you go to. Have a counseling person that you go to. It's very hard to jump into something new when you're all by yourself, but if you have some friends cheering you on and helping you there, it makes it a lot easier. And somebody that you can call up and say, it's not working, it's not working. Oh yeah, come on, you can do it. So it's really important to know what risk you're willing to take and get some friends out there to help you. And what do I need to know? Well, you don't need to have all the answers today, and you might have a dream out there, and you start building little bit by little bit. And you find out what courses you need and what extra skills you need and how much money it's going to cost. And just start building. But until you start asking those questions and until you start looking at them, you really don't know what tomorrow might bring. So, I will do this for me. I will think about how I feel about money. I will recall memories of money. So in the next few days as you're driving around, picking up kids and going to work, taking a shower, think about how money has been in your life and what memories it brings. Are they good memories? Are they bad memories? Choose. Am I going to keep those feelings? Keep track of your money. I brought, there are sheets of the weekly spending. Make up your own. I tack mine on the refrigerator. The refrigerator is a very popular place in my house, and so I can remember it that easily and track my money by writing it on that sheet. What keeps me stuck? What kind of risk am I willing to take? Or what keeps me stuck? Is it old thinking? Maybe I need to get some new friends. Maybe I need to take some new classes. Look at new skills and opportunities. Learn more about money, again, taking classes, listening to the business report, reading the free press, the money page. Take a class, join an investment club, and find a coach. As a money coach, I coach several people who are trying to get on track with money. They send me their goals, they come to me once a month, we keep on track. And an investment club is another opportunity where people get together and they pool their money, and for $25 a month, they learn about investing. So there are wonderful opportunities out there if you start looking for them. So in the next couple of days, or even now before you leave, let's do it this way. Write 3 financial goals that you'd like to accomplish within the next year. What do I want to do? Do I want to balance my checkbook? Do I want to start savings for an emergency fund? What 3 goals do I want to accomplish within the next year? Okay, write down today's date and write down a year from now. And 3 things that I want to accomplish. And I'm sure you'll think of more as you go through your day. Then, what do you think is keeping you from getting there, accomplishing those goals? Is it the fact that you need an extra skill? Is it the fact that you have old memories and old negative thoughts around money? What do you think is really holding you back? What's keeping you stuck? That's not something that you're going to answer today. I put these questions out to you to think about over the next few weeks. Really think about them and ask your friends, ask your partner, ask your kids, what's going on, and you'll come up with some very good conclusions. So before you leave today, I'd like you to think about this. I'm going to make an agreement with myself, and you can put the date up there, and it's very important to write these things. There's something that about writing it down that kind of puts it outside of me. Thinking about it isn't good enough. I have to write it down. There's a permanence to that. And put the date. Before I leave today, I promise to buy, put that date, by next Saturday, by a month from now, by the end of the year, by the end of next year. But put a date. I'm going to enroll in a class, I'm going to balance my checkbook, I'm going to call a bank and ask what my savings is earning, what my checking is earning, because if it's earning so little that it's crazy to keep my money there. I'm going to set a date with my partner to talk about money. Many times people don't talk about money. It's like a forbidden topic, or they don't make the time. Well, in order to have common goals, you have to talk about it. And you might be doing one thing and that other person might be doing something else, thinking that you're moving ahead and you're kind of draining each other. I'll talk to my kids about money. That's a real tough topic, and it's wonderful to start talking to kids about money and teaching them values, and that what's on the television isn't really always what they think it's going to be, and giving them allowances. So talk to them about money and what they think about money, and help them play games with them and help them develop good attitudes about saving and spending. Or, I left the line blank there. Do something that I haven't suggested. You know what's going to work for you. You know what feels good. You know what's going to bring you to your goals. So thank you very much for coming today. I congratulate you. This is a major step for you to learn about what's going to provide, how you can provide for your financial future and your financial security. Good luck.